So you've been thinking about starting a Model UN club at your school, right? But maybe the whole idea just feels a little overwhelming. Well, if that's you, you've come to the right place. Over the next few minutes, we're going to walk through exactly how you can launch an amazing club step by step.
You know, the number one question we get from teachers is always the same. Can I actually do this on my own? I mean, I'm not a foreign policy expert. And the answer is absolutely, 100% yes. And we're going to show you exactly how.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to totally reframe what your role is. And spoiler alert, you do not have to be an expert. Then we'll jump into the nitty-gritty of launching the club and structuring your meetings. After that, we'll talk about building a culture that lasts. And finally, we'll wrap up by tackling some of those questions you might have.
All right, let's dive right in with the biggest mental hurdle, the one thing that stops so many amazing teachers from even starting. And it's this idea that you have to be some kind of expert in global affairs. Let me just say it right now. That is absolutely not true. This is the core mindset shift you need to make. Your job isn't to be the sage on the stage, the one with all the answers. Nope. Think of yourself as the guide on the side. You're the one who provides the structure, the framework, and then you step back and let your students do the exploring, the debating, and the leading. It's their show.
So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it's all about creating a really safe space, a place where students feel like it's okay to make mistakes. It's about encouraging everyone to participate, not just the loudest voices. And it's about guiding the conversation without totally taking it over. Honestly, this takes so much pressure off you to be perfect, and it puts the spotlight right where it belongs, on your students' growth.
Okay, so now that we've got that new mindset locked in, let's get practical. Let's talk about the actual, concrete steps you can take to get your club off the ground.
You know, the biggest mistake people make is trying to do way too much, way too fast. The key here, and I can't stress this enough, is to start small. Seriously. Think one group, one committee, and just one single topic to discuss. Once you've introduced the idea and got your team together, you'll see just how manageable this whole thing can be.
Now, when you're pitching this to students, keep it simple. The simpler, the better. You can just frame it like this. Hey, this is an activity where you get to be a diplomat for a day. You'll represent a country, you'll discuss real-world problems, and you'll see how big global decisions actually get made. How cool is that? And this is maybe one of your most important jobs as a facilitator, especially at the beginning. You have to remove the fear. You need to make it crystal clear to your students that this is not a test of perfect English. It's not about being a flawless public speaker. It's about trying. It's about learning. It's about growing. The second you take that pressure off the table, boom, that's your first huge win.
So, what's the magic number? How many students should you have in your first group? We found that for a brand new club, the sweet spot is somewhere between 15 and 25 students. That's big enough to have a really dynamic debate, but still small enough that it's totally manageable for you as a single teacher.
Okay, so who should be on this team? What you're really looking for is interest and curiosity. You want kids who are willing to learn and cooperate. And listen, don't just go for your star debaters. You'd be amazed. Sometimes it's the quiet, more thoughtful students who turn out to be the most incredible researchers and deep thinkers. The goal is balance. All right, you've got your team. Awesome. So now what? What does a typical meeting actually look like? Let's talk about the logistics and build a simple, effective routine for your club. A weekly meeting, maybe 40 to 60 minutes, is absolutely perfect. You can even use a simple 4-week cycle to get started. Like week 1, just the basics of MUN. Week 2, talk about committees and the agenda. Week 3, focus on research skills. And then week 4, you put it all together and practice speaking and discussing. And just remember, consistency is everything. Short, regular meetings are way more effective than one giant long meeting every once in a while. Okay, so we've covered the nuts and bolts of getting set up, but now let's talk about making this thing last. How do you take MUN from being just another club on the list to being a real, thriving learning culture in your school?
It really comes down to weaving that MUN mindset right into the DNA of your club. You can do little things like start using the lingo, call your students delegates, talk about the agenda, make a big deal out of praising effort, not just who gave the best speech. When you make respectful listening a non-negotiable rule and you treat mistakes as just part of the learning process, well, that's when you build a space where students feel safe to really stretch and grow.
And I've got some really great news for you. A powerful, life-changing UMN experience has almost nothing to do with a big budget. Seriously, just focus on the basics. a decent room to meet in, some simple placards you print out for each country, and you guiding the conversation. You can create something truly transformational without spending a dime on fancy venues or expensive certificates.
We're almost at the finish line, so let's do a quick fire round and tackle some of those last few questions that might still be floating around in your head.
Look, you're going to run into some common hurdles, but the solutions are usually pretty simple. Got students who are hesitant to speak? Start them off in pairs or small groups to build their confidence. Do the rules seem crazy complicated? Just simplify them for your beginners. And what if you mess up? Just be honest about it. Showing your students that you're learning right alongside them is one of the best ways to build trust. You really don't need to have all the answers to get this ball rolling.
So, when you strip away all the procedures and the formalities, what is Model UN really about? It is not about perfect English. It's not about memorizing a bunch of complicated rules. It is a training ground for skills they'll use their entire lives. Thinking critically, listening with respect, and speaking with confidence.
So I guess the only real question left is, are you ready to start your MUN journey? Because you've got the tools, you've got the structure, and most importantly, you've got the right mindset. You can absolutely do this. On our next explainer, we're going to dive deep into the role of a delegate so you can see what your students will actually be doing in these sessions. We'll see you then.
Up to now, a lot of the guidance out there on Model UN has been for the teachers and coordinators, all about their role, planning, and how to get a program started. But we're going to shift gears.
Exactly. We're going to focus on the most important part of MUN, and that's you. This explainer is specifically for you, the student who's maybe a little curious or just getting started. We're going to break down what this whole incredible journey is really all about.
So, let's start at the very beginning, and I want you to think of this as an adventure, okay? Not some big, scary, formal thing. It's all about learning by doing, and trust me, it's way more fun and accessible than you might think.
Okay, this is something we have to get straight right from the get-go, because it's the whole philosophy of MUN. On the left, you see what MUN is not. It is not a fight. It's not about being the loudest person in the room to prove you're the best. The real goal is what you see on the right. It's a space for you to think, to research, to speak, and to genuinely respect other people's ideas.
And that's the beauty of it, right? It truly doesn't matter where you're starting from. So what if you're super confident and always raise your hand? Great! Or maybe you're a bit more on the shy side and prefer to listen first. That's great too. There's a place for everyone to grow here.
So when you join MUN, you kind of take on this new identity. You're not just a student anymore. You become a world delegate. So what on earth does that actually mean?
A delegate. That's your official title. Your new job is to basically step into the shoes of a diplomat from whatever country you're assigned. You're going to learn everything about its policies, its history, and then you'll speak up for its interests on the world stage.
And this brings us to the absolute golden rule of MUN. This is huge. You have to leave your personal opinions at the door. Your job now is to represent your assigned country's views, period. What they believe, what they support, and what they oppose. It's an incredible exercise in seeing the world from a totally different perspective.
Okay, so you're a delegate. You're representing a country, but what do you do? Well, we can actually break it all down into 4 core missions. These are going to be your guideposts for the whole experience.
Then here they are. Simple, right? 1, research. 2, write. 3, speak and debate. And 4, collaborate. These 4 things are the backbone of everything you're going to do. So let's take a quick look at each one.
Mission 1, research. This is your foundation. You're going to dive deep into your country, the specific topic up for discussion, and all the problems and possible solutions around it. And seriously, good research is like a superpower. It's what's going to give you all the confidence you need.
Next up, you write. You'll put together what's called a position paper. It's basically a short doc that neatly organizes all that research you did. It'll have a quick intro to the topic, your country's official view, and the solutions it wants to see. Think of it as your playbook for the debate.
Mission 3 is speaking and debate, and this is a really important distinction. MUN debate is not what you see on the news, okay? It's not about yelling or fighting to prove someone wrong. It's a structured, respectful conversation that is 100% focused on one thing, finding solutions together.
And that leads us perfectly into your final mission, collaboration. This is where the magic happens. You're going to be talking with other delegates, hashing out ideas, negotiating, and literally writing solutions, called resolutions, as a team. This is where your teamwork and leadership skills really shine.
All right, so you've done all your prep, and the big day is finally here. What does a conference actually look like?
Let's walk through it so you know exactly what to expect.
A typical day is actually pretty structured, so no need to worry. It kicks off with a simple roll call where you just say you're present. Then you'll have opening speeches where everyone lays out their country's position. The biggest part of the day is the debate sessions, and it all ends with voting on those resolutions you all worked so hard on.
Now for the best part. After all this hard work, what do you actually walk away with? Let's talk about the incredible skills you're going to earn, because this is the real prize.
I mean, just look at this list. We're talking about real-world skills that you'll use for the rest of your life. Public speaking, critical thinking, deep research, teamwork, leadership, not to mention just becoming way more aware of what's happening in the world. The growth is just huge.
And this is why it all matters so much. These aren't just MUN skills, they're life skills. For sure, they'll help you crush your exams, ace job interviews, and make your college applications stand out. But really, they're going to help you in pretty much every part of your life.
Okay, I know what some of you might be thinking right now. This sounds cool, but it also sounds a little terrifying. I get it. So let's talk about those common fears and tackle them head on.
Let's start with the big one, the #1 fear for almost every first-timer. That feeling in your stomach when you think about standing up and speaking in front of a whole room of people. It's totally normal.
But here's the reality. MUN is designed to build your confidence one small step at a time. Nobody expects you to be some perfect, polished speaker on day one. You start small, you work in groups, and you grow at a pace that feels right for you.
And what about this one? That little voice in your head saying that everyone else in the room is an expert and you're the only one who has no idea what's going on. Ever feel that?
Well, the reality is, every single person you see in that room was a beginner once. Every single one. You have to remember that MUN is a learning space, not a judgment space. Everyone's there to learn and grow together.
So if you take away just one thing from all of this, please let it be this. Your goal is not to be perfect. Your goal is just to participate, to try, to learn, to engage with the ideas. That is where all the value is.
In our next explainer, we're going to get super practical and break down exactly how you can prepare for your very first conference, step by step. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. We're excited for you to continue this journey with us.